Good evening and welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Tom here again for another away fan show. Obviously, another disappointing performance at home to Crystal Palace, but the games come thick and fast now. On Thursday night, no more than a win against Leeds will do. And then we move on to Sunday against Wolves. And tonight we'll be chatting about Wolves, joined by Dan from the Wolves Fancast. We were talking about last season with Bruno, the beginning of this season with Bruno before they decided to make the shop. We'll also be talking about the main man for them now, Diogo Costa, who's gone to Wolverhampton. An interesting signing, as I would say. Let's get Dan in. Evening, Dan.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, mate. Great to have you on. Obviously, we're doing this before we play Leeds United tomorrow night. Obviously, we'll be hoping to get a win to close the gap on you boys going into the game. After you boys lost to Palace last night 2-1, what must have been a bit disappointing having taken the lead.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I thought we were good value at half time to be in front. Conceded pretty much straight from kickoff in the second half, which really derailed us. But looking back on sort of the performances that we've had to endure this season as a Wolves fan, the first half was quite encouraging. I felt like there's actually a bit more effort and belief within the squad last night than there has been, like as you mentioned, since Bruno's left, and massively improved since Bruno was in charge.
Let's go back to Bruno. Obviously, last season you finished 10th in the league. You know, not bad for a manager coming into a new league in some ways. What do you make of Bruno's first season in charge of you boys? Because there was a lot of talk that he did a good job for you.
It's literally a tale of two halves with the season. At one point, sort of middle of February, we were in the chase for top four. I was doing sort of regular YouTube episodes with the likes of Leicester, West Ham, Man United, Chelsea, all these clubs. Sort of the race for Europe. Most of the episodes were called, and just for it to end up in a 10th place position just showed how badly Bruno had lost the dressing room and any sort of confidence and belief the squad had with him in charge.
Obviously, Bruno started the season as your manager. Obviously, you lost to Leeds on the opening day of the season away 2-1. What's probably wasn't the best start to the season for you boys.
No, it's literally been a massive hangover. I said sort of probably since the end of February, when sort of top four became sort of clear wasn't possible. I'm just like going back even further. At the end of January, we let Adama go out on loan to Barcelona. Didn't replace him. If someone would have said to me sort of the start of February that we were going to finish 10th, I would have been like, you can't be serious, because we were such in the hunt for the top four. Like finishing 7th would have been like worst case scenario for most Wolves fans, but we just completely fell off a cliff. I think it was 2 wins in 16 before Bruno finally bit the bullet and got his marching orders. And this is a long time coming for Wolves fans. What Wolves as a club, what I'm trying to say is that we're still in a bit of a hangover from the Nuno era in regards to not scoring enough goals. Still okay defensively, apart from the second half last night where we gifted Palace the comeback and the points in the end. We're just massively struggling for goals, and I really don't want to jinx it, but I think I'm sure Wolves and Leicester are too good to go down, but I'm sure that'll go viral at the end of the season. Now I've said it.
Hey, look, I've said it enough. No club are ever too good to go down. Sadly, if we said his football paper was done on matches.
Yeah, let me reword it a bit, Tom. I still think Leicester have got enough goals to keep them up, and I think once Wolves appoint a new manager and the club as a whole gets more stabilised, I still think there'll be three worse teams than Leicester and Wolves come the end of the season.
Well, that's a fair point, and I've said for a long time I feel there's worse teams, as you will see at the moment. Our biggest problem is keeping the ball out of the net. We are scoring goals, and we're scoring goals quite happily to a game. I think it's worked out. What's brilliant, but if you've got to score 3 goals a game to win instead of 2, you suddenly got a problem, and that's been our killer heels this season. 5 goals away at Brighton, 6 away at Tottenham, 4 at Arsenal. You know, okay, some of them are big clubs, but you can't go and concede that many goals and expect to win football matches. Obviously, you boys have had a hard start to the season. I said you lost to Leeds. You got a couple of draws against Bournemouth and Fulham. You beat Southampton. You then got a nice win against Forest. And I think Villa fans are very envy of Leicester smashing them 4-0 and getting a draw. Then you boys have beaten them as well. So obviously, Villa fans are a bit annoyed they haven't got the 3 points against Forest this time round.
Well, there's levels to it, isn't there, Tom?
Of course there is, mate.
Of course there is. What are we bringing up Villa for, Tom? This is a Premier League top lads show.
You have to bring them up sometimes. Give them a bit of fame. Hey, they've got their own problems at the moment. Obviously, you boys, you know, you let Silva go out and load to Anderlecht. Yes, and I've seen a few games in Champions League. Kids playing in the Champions League. That's what makes you laugh, I think. Is he in Champions League or is he in the Europa Cup? But he's gone out to a club in Europe. Obviously, very good for you boys. But that's left you short up front this season, and you had to dip into the free market and find Diego Costa. How's he improved your attacking line? Because obviously he's not fit. It's taken him a long time to get anywhere fit. It will, but he looked sharp. He should have scored when I watched it last night. He had the chance. He went through on goal and he tried to do a bit of skill when in theory he should have taken a touch and pinged it. What's he offering you boys? Because, you know, we all know what Diego Costa is. He's a nasty bastard at the best of times up front, and he'll wind teams up for laugh. He'll wind crowds up for fun. But what's he going to offer the Wolves at the moment? Because your main man, Raul Jimenez, is out for another month or so? Is it a bit longer?
We just don't know what's going on with Raul at the moment. There's whispers and murmurings that retirement's approaching, that the Mexico are gearing him up to play at the World Cup, and then he'll call it quits after the World Cup. I think the head injuries just had too much of a detrimental impact on his playing career now. I've said this on numerous other shows. Tom, imagine having a year out of football just without no injury. It's going to have an impact on a player at this sort of level, never mind the head injury that he suffered. But just a massive blow, because before the injury, he was probably one of the top 20 strikers in Europe at the time. He could do everything, link up play, he could score all varieties of goal. He has been a massive miss. Obviously, we've let Fabio Silva go out on loan. Some of the footballing decisions at our club have been atrocious recently. Fabio needed to go out to get game time, but to not have sort of ready-made strikers in the door before it was agreed to let him go out on loan was just, some of the people running our club are so inept. It's mind-boggling at times. Diego Costa, I feel he gets massively underrated for his actual technical ability. We all know he's a bit of a bastard. He's king bastard in regards to football, but some of his link-up play, just his intent to get into the box, I think he's a striker that every type of club needs, really. He'll bring you respite when you need it. He'll win you a free kick when you need it. And you just know if he gets a decent chance once he's fully fit and fully firing, he's going to put it away. You mentioned that miss last night away to Crystal Palace. Not sure what he was doing. I think he would have been sort of having a restless night last night in his bed, thinking about how he managed to cock that up. But in sort of general, to sum him up, the games that he's played so far, he's given us more than what Jimenez has for the last sort of 12 months.
How do you feel your setup going into the Leicester game? Because, you know, you've changed a few formations over the last week. Formation, the team round. Obviously, at Forest, since the Forest game, you made forced subs or 4 different changes going into the next game against Palace. Well, I thought it was a bit strange seeing that you just won a football match. And we all know sometimes when you win, it's good to keep things tight, keep the same players in and around the team. But you made 4 changes going into it, and it's sort of backfired, I think, in some ways for you boys. I mean, you got Collins back, who, well, he was a naughty boy against Man City and knew what he was doing to get sent off in that game. To anyone who says he didn't deserve to get sent off or he didn't mean it, he knew exactly what he was doing to Jack.
I blame myself, Tom. I said crack him. And then within a matter of seconds of him actually karate kicking Jack Grealish, I thought, what are you listening to me for?
Oh, mate, it was one of those. I think every football fan was like, oh, he's meant that. He knew exactly what he was doing there. To play I didn't mean it. Yeah, all right, mate. How
Yeah,
do you think he'll set up? Do you think he'll make more changes again? Because obviously your manager at the moment is interim manager. He's been with your academy. He's been a Wolves fan for 50-odd years, but the way we were talking about it last night.
That's it. Yeah, Steve Davis, current caretaker manager. Hopefully, we'll have a manager appointed before the game, but it's not looking likely at the moment. We're being massively linked to the QPR head coach at the moment, Michael Beale. Apparently, discussions in the next massive potential, comes with a lot of credibility from other various football contacts. So from what I read, he's been the mastermind of Steven Gerrard's success as a coach so far, and ever since Michael Beale has left, Steven Gerrard has fallen apart. It's nice to see. Hopefully, Michael Beale can come in and sort us out if he is as good as people say he is. He's coached in Brazil, so he can speak Portuguese, which should do him a big favour with our squad. Sunday lunchtime 2 o'clock kickoff is it on Sunday? Yeah. I still think we'll be set up 4-2-3-1. We had to make a few substitutions in the latter part of last night's game because of players carrying a few knocks. Adama Traore, who got his first goal of the season, he came off injured. He had a bit of a fitness dip going into the game, and it was always agreed he'd come off. But he looked on fire last night. He was back to his best at picking up the ball deep, beating 4 or 5 players. He took his goal well. He's never really been known as a headering winger, back post. But good to see him on the score sheet yesterday. Hopefully he can be fit against Saturday. I can't really see many changes. Hopefully Diego Costa's got enough energy in the tank to start again because, like I said, we need him at the moment. But before the West Ham game when he made his debut, he hadn't started a competitive match since November last year. So he's really sort of struggling for fitness. But hopefully he can go against Saturday and hopefully he can get his first goal in all gold.
And the final question, mate, for me tonight, it's a quick show, but what do you think the score is going to be, mate?
I think it's going to be a scrappy 2-1.
Scrappy 2-1. Look, as a Leicester fan, I'll take. You're going to take the win. We're going to take the win because obviously we win at the weekend. We come right up behind you by a point. Obviously, with the results the way they're going at the moment, I think Southampton are winning. That's giving them a little bit of a buffer away from the relegation zone. It's so tight down the bottom. I don't think I've ever seen a Premier League season after 10 games with so many teams that could literally nick a point and suddenly be in the top half.
It's turning into the Championship where you win 2 or 3 games on the bounce and you're back right in the running for the better positions. It's got to keep the faith at the moment, Tom. There's still a long way to go. I think a lot of teams, their season literally begins after the World Cup's finished. You look at Newcastle last season after Christmas, they went on a serious run. We've just got to hope our team can do that.
Winning tonight, I think they're 5th in the league as it stands. It could be an interesting one. All I can say going into this game on Sunday, tomorrow's night results against Leeds could be make or break from Rodgers. It really could, because I've got a really feeling now that if after the weekend's performance, if we have another poor performance and get battered, then I can't see how the club can back him anymore. And that
can they afford to sack him, Tom? That seems to be the big question coming outside the club. Can they afford to sack him?
I think at the moment, the way I look at it, mate, and the way I think a lot of journalism would put it is, one, it's not 10 million you've got to pay straight off. It will never be 10 million pounds that you've got to pay up front anyway. It'll be installments. Like any manager gets stacked. It'll be in their contracts that you'll get X amount over 4 years or 3 years. So I don't think the stumbling block's the money. I think the stumbling block that is that Top doesn't feel, or some of the board don't feel, there is a manager with Rodgers' criteria out there to walk in and do the job that Rodgers is doing. Sadly, I think at the moment where the club financially where they're at is that we don't need a manager of Rodgers' ability. We need a manager who knows how to get the best out of players in this division. And I've already chucked his name in there many times. I think Sean Dyche should come in and do a cracking job to stable the ship, to try and get the wage bill and structure back in control, because at the moment that's our biggest problem, that we got players like Vestergaard earning 70k a week who Fulham wanted to sign but only offered him 35, and when he went, no, I ain't come to you, I've got 2 years left to it, Leicester, and I can sit on the bench. You got players like Ryan Bertrand who had a cracker pre-season his first year, but we've not seen anything of him because he got COVID and then he's been injured since, and he's not even played one game or any minutes this season or trained with the first team, who's on 60k a week. This is the problem. This is why this whole financial fair play is caught up with us in some way, and we were being warned about, we were being watched at the beginning of the season. That's why we haven't been able to sign players, and we've had to wait for big players to go in. For Fana, who was on a nice contract after he got a new contract last year, and sign a goalkeeper who was in the Championship, and Alex Smith, who's coming as a backup goalkeeper. We never really replaced Kasper Schmeichel. So to your point of haven't we got the money, I don't think it's money. I think it's the board trying to hold out to hope Rodgers can really turn this round. And as I said, nothing would give me more pleasure to see Rodgers to turn this shit round. The problem is there's not enough fans who will see that, and as we saw at Bournemouth away when they lost, the first chance of we want Rodgers out happened. And then as we saw at the weekend with the Union F boys for the Cup and the banner board, the time for action is now. And Top saw it. The chance were there. He ain't going to have much time before that ground is toxic. And I've just got a bad feeling we could get battered tomorrow. And if that's the case, it could be the shining light that Rodgers does go, and you make a change going into the weekend's game with Wolves. What probably wouldn't be the best things for your scenario in that case, but for Leicester fans, it's probably what we're crying out for, is get this change and get hopefully a manager in to give us the lift we need.
Do you know where you should get in, Tom?
Go on, then.
Mark McGee.
Oh, I knew you were going to bring him up. I thought we are going to also not mention Mark McGee yet. Thank God for that. Oh,
Mark McGee, Adi Akinboye up front.
How many players? God, we go back over the years now.
Steve Corica. Richard Stearman.
The thing is, Stearman was good for us, and we came through the academy and then went off to you boys, and then he'd gone off to Derby. Like Stearman, he was gutted when he left after we got relegated. He even said that he never wanted to leave his hometown club or go anywhere. He wanted to stay and get him back, but the club was, well, at the time, going to League One was financially stricken, and we had to sell all our best players and rebuild, as you boys have done over the years and been down to League One and back like the same as. So we're both quite similar in the way things happened. Probably not in recent years, and the success that Leicester fans have had. Sometimes I always feel that it blares a vision what we need to expect as a club. And like for me, if we get the top 7, top 8 every year, I'm happy with that, because we're going in the right direction and we can rebuild and challenge again to get into that top 4. Well, it's possible for any club, but you've got to get European football season in, season out to attract the better players to do that. Definitely. That takes time. Thank you for joining us tonight, mate. Obviously, you've said 2-1 to the Wolves. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. If we can get a point on the road again, it's a point in the right direction. Hopefully 3 points tomorrow. Yeah, 5 points from a week would be a very good result for Leicester after the start we've had. But thanks for joining us tonight, mate, and hopefully you'll see you at the weekend.
Nice one, Tom. Take care.
Bye. And there we go, another away fan show. As always, thank you for joining us. If you go to the Leeds game tomorrow night, I can't say anything more than I've said it before every game. If you're Rodgers in, if you're Rodgers out, and I'm now Rodgers out, but whatever you are, back the lads. The lads need us. That atmosphere has got to be like it was against Forest every home game now. And I know it's not easy. And I know you want the players to give something to cheer about and give you a lift. Sometimes the fans have got to get behind the players first and show the players that they were willing to back them. They did it against Forest, and it gave the players a lift, because then the players gave the fans a lift with the performance. Tomorrow night has got to be exactly the same for me. So go to the KP, sing your hearts out for the lads, get behind the team. For now, keep it all Leicester Fan TV, and I'll see you soon.